Hello, good evening, and welcome to another in the series, Why I Write. My name is Totlin Oliver, and I'm your host for tonight's presentation. It is always my pleasure to be here with you on Why I Write. As you know, on this platform, we have the pleasure of just simply having these wonderful discussions with different types of artists and musicians who grace our world and give us some of the most beautiful gifts ever. So this night is no different. It is my utmost pleasure to have as my special guest a longtime friend, someone who I knew from stage and theater from in my teens, into my teens. So when I saw that he was about to launch his first book, oh my goodness, I was filled with excitement because I said to him, you are doing exactly why I write, which is to leave our memoirs, tell our stories in our own voice, because every one of our lives is so unique. So you cannot but celebrate such a wonderful achievement. Yeah? Help me welcome to Why I Write, Delvon, Bulby. How are you? Welcome. Good to see you. So make sure your mic is on. Yes? Yes.
It's so good to see you after so many years. I've not seen you. He's talking about almost 40 years.
I know. Oh
Yeah,
my
but
goodness.
thanks to social media, we keep in touch, It could
And
be
this,
anywhere in the world and we're good.
that
Yeah,
is the biggest plus. That is the
yeah,
biggest plus. For old school people like us, we like to keep our business to ourselves kind of thing.
yeah.
For old school people like us, we do know how to use the tools that we are given because we know how to survive without them. And now we know how to survive with them. Delvon, Bulby. They always call you Bulby. I only know you as Bulby. From the early days of the time you were playing in the band, the orchestra that was led by the most inimitable, talented musical director ever, Noel Dexter, and you were in that band. That's how I met you.
Yeah, that's right.
It was Man Song, the pantomime that starred Bertie Johnson and Faith Nelson and Hope myself, and of course, Charles Hyatt. But also, was this ever your first theatrical production that you were playing in the band for?
Yes, it was. Yeah. And there were a few friends of mine that was involved with that. So that's how I got in. And of course, I knew Charles Hyatt very well. And one of my cousins are related to him also. So
Okay, nice.
I found that out 50 odd years later.
Well, what is amazing is that our conversation tonight is surrounding your soon to be released book, your launched book. And that book, of course, is called Behind My Smile. That is such a very intriguing title. And when we see that, we can't help but wonder, what is in this book? So, Beyond My Smile, let me correct that, Beyond My Smile. And this is Rising Above Rejection, a memoir. I never figured that when I met you how many years ago, and then we reconnected again on Facebook, and I saw you were a fantastic groomer for dogs and so on. I never thought that you would be here today with me talking about authoring your work.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
let's start at the beginning. Let's start at the beginning, Delvon. What you prefer to be called, Delvon or Bulby? Because at different stages of your life, I'm sure you have different names.
It's Bulby.
Bulby, right, Bulby.
Yeah.
I remember you as a young man, just busy, always playing your trumpet. So it's like I've always known you to be a musician. So let us start at the beginning. How did you become a musician?
Well, I was put in juvenile homes when I was young, and I got transferred from one to the other, and the one that I got transferred to was Alpha Boys School, and they provided trades and different things, trades, regular school, and so I decided to join the band, and I did join the band. I chose the instrument that I wanted to play because they asked me what I wanted to play, and I said, well, I look around and I saw the saxophone with a lot of keys, and I'm like, no, I don't want that. The trombone looked a little bit hard. I saw the trumpet with 3 valves, and I'm like, that's the one. I chose one of the hardest one because it got 3.
So the 3 keys fooled you. The 3
Yeah,
keys right away fooled you,
really fooled me.
not knowing that you chose the hardest one. That is
That's
funny.
right.
So let's even dial back. That's just the genesis of you getting to be a musician. But let us
Yeah.
start where your story really starts and what brought you to be writing Beyond the Smile, because that must have been your life's journey, must have been the reason why you thought that, you know what, I have a book inside me and I should make a note and I must tell my story. So let us start at the very, very beginning. Why is it that you were placed in juvenile homes?
Well, I was given away at birth, and the couple I was given to, the woman drowned, and no, the woman died, got sick and died, and the man drowned, and I was left alone in the house, and people were passing by, calling out to the man, who I always answered back, but they heard no answer back, and they heard a kid crying. So everybody decided to come and look. I couldn't say where I was 4, and they start searching the bushes, the rivers and stuff. Eventually, they sent for a guy up in the hill that could swim and dive, and it was 100-foot drop behind the house. After you go through a little pathway down to the river, and he slid, hit his head, and he drowned. Because when they picked him out, they went down 3 times. It's that deep that they had to come up and cut longer bamboo sticks, tie it together, go down search. And then the third time, I saw them pulling him out of the river, and I saw like a fish jumped out his mouth. It was wide open, and they told me that was a mullet, and I've not eaten anything called a mullet since then. So the woman's sister came to that district, and when they had this thing called 9 night, on the 9th night, they keep stuff and thing. And I heard somebody in the group that says, what's going to become of the little boy? And I heard a voice say, I'll take him. And it was the sister of the lady. So she took me. I ended up in Richmond, St. Mary. She was a helper, domestic helper to a headmaster and headmistress of Zion High School. And I stayed with them for a while until they retired and moved to Kingston. And they took me with them. I was about 6, 7 at the time. And when we got to Kingston, she actually got me into a school. I went to a private school, and you know that in private schools in Jamaica is a different type of private school from America. Private school was in a ghetto with a zinc up houses, and this one lady they call mother, she kept classes for all the kids in the area, and I was one of them. So I had to go to school in a short pants, barefoot, and a woman's handbag with my exercise books. I used to hide the handbag on the leaves, on the trees, and then when I leave school, I pick it up back and acted as if I took it to school, or else I get beaten, you know, and thing. So I went to that school, never liked the school, so they transferred me to St. Richard's Primary School, and I started going there for a while. Probably about 2 years later, I started seeing some people coming into the classrooms with a sister, and it's a Catholic school, the sisters, and I saw them pointing at me and talking, and I was wondering what's going on. Apparently, the lady that took me, they were about to put me in juvenile home, and those people that was in the classroom that was pointed, that pointed me out. Those guys were working with the Social Development Commission, and they're the ones that put you in all these institutions. And you know, eventually, long story short, they put me away.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, so when your book is titled Beyond My Smile, How You Overcome Rejection, even at the tender age of 4, you're experiencing feelings of abandonment and rejection. But here you are today, survived to tell your story, to live, to tell the story, and a very, very fulfilled and fulfilling life as we speak. Because nobody, looking at you in 1980, 1981, nobody, I certainly never saw that story.
That's right. That's right.
Never saw
To be
that.
honest, yeah. To be honest with you, I never feel rejected. I never felt that. I never felt any part of that. My whole life as a youngster, it seemed as if that was how things went back then. I never knew. It never looked back. Never
Yes.
looked back, and it never bothered me because I didn't know why. Why did I be bothered with something? I don't even know the history or the
Yeah.
story or anything. So you know, I just went with the flow.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
your life turned out to be the example of, look, man, ignorance is bliss. I'm here. I'm good. You know,
Yeah.
I'm here in this home, and I have the opportunity to play music, and I'm going to choose the easiest instrument I see. So I'm going to choose a trumpet. But he said it turned out to be one of the most challenging instruments ever. So when you left the Alpha Boys home, where did you find yourself moving on to?
Well, when my time was up, I had nowhere to go. I had no place to go. So I said, you know something, let me join the army. I got a roof, I got food, I got a paycheck, and I'm in the band there, the Jamaica Regiment band. So that I ended up in the army. And that's a saving grace for me because I've been living on the street. Yeah.
That's a big deal that you had the wherewithal, the presence of mind to say, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. So explain something for those of us who don't know anything about the Alpha Boys home. The Alpha Boys home, they were run by the Catholic
Sisters of Mercy.
The Sisters of Mercy, the same sisters who ran the Convent of Mercy Alpha, which is a school that my mother also attended. And the school offered the home and the band. So did it mean that you had to, Alpha Boys, was it also a high school or an all-age school or a technical school, or did you
No, it was just eventually it became like it became a kind of high school, you know, where you could do a GCE or whatever. But in my time it wasn't. It was just you go school in the morning and then you go trade in the afternoon, and the people in trade in the morning go school in the it was like that, you know, until they start doing scholarships for high school. I mean, couple guys did that before, a little before I left. That's when that
Mhm.
started. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
So how did you survive being in the army at such a young age? So you were how old when you joined the army?
I
That
was
had
17, 17 years old. I was 17. But it was cool because the thing is, the Alpha Boys School, and I would say, I said Stony Hill, one and two guys I know from Stony Hill, when approved school, of course. Alpha supplied the army two bands, the military band, Jamaica Military Band, and the Jamaica Regiment Band, and also provided musicians for the police band, which was down the street from us. So
Mm,
all of those guys at that time was Alpha Boys, you know. And the reason I got in so young is that they needed people, and so I got in at 17, and only to learn that when you go in a little bit younger, when you're 6 years up, you owe them a year. They tried that with me, but I got out of that.
are you serious?
Yeah.
They tried to hold on to you longer than.
Well, yeah, apparently the Queen was coming to Jamaica, and we're out there rehearsing and practicing on the parades and things like that. And I'm burning up in the bus and all of that stuff. And I don't see why I should be out there. I know I should be out there because I'm still there, But then in my mind is, man, I'm burning up out here, and I'm not gonna be here when the Queen comes. So anyway, I worked with it, and when my time came the following week to leave, man, I stepped, and I never thought of the fact that because I went in at 17, I had to spend another year.
Mhm.
So one day I walked into the camp, and one of the captains saw me, and he said, "Hey man, come here." I went over to him, and he said, "You left before time, right? It's a year." He said, "Report to me next week back here." I have not passed South Camp Road in 6 years. I drive, if I have to go somewhere in Crossroads, I'm driving around for 6, 7 years. I'm not gone anywhere near South Camp Road because I wasn't going to go back in the army. You know what I mean? so all of that just eventually evaporated, and I end up with Dean, Fraser, and all of them guys. I lived with Dean and started playing, Yeah.
So, and you're not just going to rush over the Dean Fraser part, one of our greatest saxophonists in Jamaican music history ever. In your experience as a military person and, you being a musician, it means more or less that you were always on performance, always in performances, always probably doing rehearsals and getting and sharpening your chops as you go along. Is it that you actually ended up falling in love with trumpet playing?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, by all means, yeah. I have 4 of them right here now.
Did you have the first trumpet that you got? Do you still have?
No, no.
No,
Those trumpets. I tell you something. When I first went to Alpha Boys School, they had on the trumpet line. They had 4 trumpeters or 3 trumpeters, right? 2 had really nice instrument. My instrument, I had to tie up with a piece of cord, and the holes in it, I gotta use brown soap and patch it and play, because people donated horns to us.
right.
And and the better guys have the good horn. I got the one you gotta tie up with a cord or elastic or something like that.
But that must have produced in you a greater skill even, because when you're working with broken instrument and you have to sound good and in tune with the rest of the band, then certainly. So one of the anecdotes that you have growing up in a boys' home is that you also were companion to some of Jamaica's forerunning artists, internationally known artists. So let us dive a little bit into that anecdote that,
So When I entered in St. Patrick's Place of Safety, the juvenile home, right down the street from Bellevue, across from Bellevue, I met this fellow, and they all called him White Man because he was albino. He was really tall guy, and they say, oh, the kids were really mean because they say, oh, we don't eat from him because he's this, he's scaly, he's raw, whatever. And I became good friends with him. And the lady that put me in that home, when she brought me Shirley biscuits and cheese, I don't eat cheese because I got beaten to eat cheese, so I don't eat cheese. And she brought all those stuff. We share, me and him. And when he sneak out and get stuff, we share. And the other guys didn't. We became really good friends. And I ran away once. One morning they had me sweeping the front of the superintendent's office. And there's, on the seaside of St. Patrick is on Raytown, you know where that is, right? And they had a fishing village over there. And every day somebody gets stabbed or killed or whatever. And they had this bad boy called, what's his name again? Bruno or something like that, right? And he was like the head of the whatever gang was over there. So one morning they had me sweeping the front of the front of the office, which was way away from the kids. So they had a big gate with some mesh over it, and the guy, his name was Grotto. And Grotto was passing, and he said, he said, hey, man, what you doing with it? Jump the boy at him, mean run away from there. So I look, and I had a bush broom sweeping. They never gave us broom, this bush broom. So I look around, put the bush broom down, jumped the fence, and I ran from Raytown to Havendale, non-stop, because I heard that they have people who will catch you, get paid to bring you back, right? So a long story short, I end up in Havendale. I couldn't go home because grandma, as I call her, she would beat the hell out of me. So they were building a house on Madison Drive on an open lot. And they always have the cement stored in a makeshift zinc thing. I end up sleeping on bags of cement along with the watchman. And in the mornings, when they cook on the stove pot, they'll share the food with me. I end up looking like I work on the car after a week. I was dirty, smelly. So I went home, and grandma said, what are you doing here? She grabbed me and she took me inside and she beat the hell out of me. I lived on whips up until 17 when I left the army.
Wow.
So they took me back to the school and they put me in a pajama. I wore the pajama till I looked like Tarzan. It started ripping because you're not gonna run away in pajamas, And so yellow man, white man at the time, he said, listen, he said, he called me Campbell to this day. He said, Campbell, you stop running away and just rope in, and do some stuff, learn the craft thing, whatever. Another month after I got out of the pajama, months later, they put me around the same place to work again, and the same guy passed. And he said, hey man, I thought you run away. I said, I did, but they caught me. He said, man, jump up. So I decided to jump again. And this time, as I put my foot over the fence, I hear don't move. One of the staff caught me. He took me to the superintendent. They beat the crap out of me. Beat me to none. And then gave me a crocus bag dress. They cut out the neck, the sleeve. So I wore a crocus bag for like almost 3 months. And the white man came to me and he said, listen, I tell you, stop running with it. Try and work yourself in with everybody else. And they used to teach craft. You go to school in the morning and they teach craft. And the craft they taught was to make strainer out of Milo can. Milo tin. You open it, you cut it open, and then do the nails. And yeah, exactly. So I started behaving myself now and say, listen to him and thing. And about 2 weeks later, they transferred him to someplace. I don't know where he gone to, And it turned out that I was still there, and my probation officer. In fact, me and White Man's probation officer was the same officer, Miss Williams. And she really nice. She used to come and visit. And then the church that my grandma, my guardian, used to go to, everybody knew me there. They liked me and everything. They even took me to their house to play with their kids. You know, I never had any privilege of doing that. So they did all of that stuff. And the Reverend Burchell Taylor, I don't know if you ever heard that name.
No, Burchell Taylor.
Right. He used to come and visit me down there. And I think he went to the Social Development Commission, and I don't know what was said, but I was transferred, and I was transferred to Alpha Boys School. And when I got there, they have all this big dormitory with different, and each house is like different names, Xavier, Aloysius, Ignatius, whatever. So I was in Xavier. They put me in Xavier. And when they put me in Xavier, you know whose bed was right beside me? White man.
Yellow man.
We link again. So the name White Man changed when he went to Alpha. They start calling him Yellow Man. No, actually, it was still White Man. Yellow Man is when he started the tasty contest of singing. That's when the Yellow Man comes in. But it was always White Man or Winston Foster, right? And to this day, he texts me every day and we talk, and I told him what happened with me and stuff like that. He thinks different with his side of the story because of my story is bad, but his story is worse, right? So, and he's not into the family thing, but I'm different, you know, and I blame him. That's how he feels, you know. Right. So we keep in touch. And he became really famous and started going worldwide. And luckily, my first time on an airplane was with him to Suriname.
Wow, look at that. Yeah. Look at that. You see, I get so excited when I hear these stories. No, I can't wait to read that book, Beyond My Smile. This is absolutely amazing. I don't think that there is only 1 hour, Bulby, that can contain all the discussions, because I know in prepping for tonight's show, we spoke so long already. It was so exciting to hear these stories and these anecdotes. And when you see people on the outside, you never know what they have gone through to be here today. And that is why we facilitate Why I Write. I want to say welcome if you're just joining us. We are here having a deep, wonderful conversation with Delvon Bulby Campbell, musician, trumpeter, ace trumpeter, and now author. And he has had his hands in so many areas of life. I'm going to pause right here and check out our viewers and our viewers' comments at this time. We want to say good night to author Andreen Bonner. Andreen says, congratulations, Delvon. 𝑦𝑗𝑒𝑚𝒀𝑶𝑵 says, good evening, blessed love. I want to thank Carol Patton and everybody else for watching. Andreen Bonner asks, did you play trumpet with L. Nathan Brackenridge?
Oh, yes.
He too is a fine trumpet player. Yes.
Yeah. I didn't play. I only played with him when he came back to school to visit over Alpha. But I played with his brother, who he passed away some years ago. But we kept in touch. He up to last week. He's in Canada.
All right, Andreen. Thank you so much for that question. 𝑦𝑗𝑒𝒻𝒀𝑶𝑵 says, Burchell Taylor, yes, great retired Baptist minister. I remember him well. Very popular in Jamaica. Then we have Dawn Forrester Price, another one of our authors, who really, she says, this is intriguing. Isn't it, Dawn? This is a fabulous story. Marilyn Valentine says he always had spirit. I love it. So here you got yourself out of the army. Were you still, did you play in any other pantomime after the first one I met you at in 1980?
No, but I while I was in Alpha, I used to be granted a little get out. So I used to go up to the School of Music with Dean and then you had an American trombone player. She played with Dizzy Gillespie and all of them, Duke Ellington. Melba Liston. She came to the,
Huh.
remember Melba? She
Yes,
came
yes,
to
yes.
School of Music, and she started a thing called the Jamaica Afro Jazz Band. And I used to go there, and she was like a mother. She treated me, Nambo and Dean like her son, and Chico and all of those guys, you know, and things. So, but she got a little bit of fight from the administration. You know, it was British, British people and stuff like that, and she just got fed up and she came back to the States. And I found out she started a women's band here, all women trombonists and things, but she died. She was like another mother to me, you know, and Dean and all of these guys.
You know what? You just both been named some of the greatest musicians in Jamaican history. You're talking about Dean Fraser. You're talking about My Heart, Nambo Robinson. You're talking
We all
about
live together. All of us live together.
you
Same house.
you guys were so fabulous in the music. Easy to talk to. I spent a lot of hours just hanging out with the 809 group, just going around there and just sitting down and reasoning, going by zinc fence and just reasoning. You know, so it's just not, they just say me turn up and I'll just be chatting, because that's what we did. That was the vibes of the day. That was really fantastic. So after you had gone through your Jamaica School of Music, because now you reside, you're a Jamaican living abroad in the US. What was your journey like between then and now? And what brought you to the table of writing your memoirs?
Okay, so in 2014, me and my wife, we went Christmas shopping. First, we went shopping for groceries, and then when we got home, she said, "No, can we go tomorrow?" I said, "Nope, we're not going tomorrow. If we thought we're going tomorrow, we're never going, right?" So, and this was another groomer's office I was in, and she said to me, "It's almost Christmas now. Are you shop?" I said, "No," but she said, "Why don't you go down to the outlet malls down in Campbell there in Redlands?" Anyway, we eventually went down to this outlet mall, and I walked into a jeans store, bought a pair of jeans. As we came out, we saw a shop that says Irie Vibes or Island Vibes. So I said to my wife, I said, "That looked like a Jamaican store. Let's go check it out." So we walked up to the store. I went in. I started talking to the girl at the counter about you know, that I'm looking for something for my wife, and Usain Bolt running shoes and stuff. And she said, "Well, okay." And then all of a sudden, this dreadlocks guy walked in, and he said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, you work here?" He said, "Yeah." It was his store. So I told him my wife wasn't interested in anything at the time in there. So I asked him about the shoes, and he said, "I'll get it for you. Just leave me your name and number." So I said, "Okay." Did that. And he said to me, "Let me ask you have any family from Clarendon, Jamaica?" So I said, "No, I don't know. I've never seen a family before. I was given away at birth." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "You look just like my uncle Oswald Campbell in England." So I said to him, "That's the name of my father." And the only reason I knew my father's name and my mother's name is when the second lady, the sister of the woman, took me and we moved to Kingston. She went to Spanish Town and she got a birth certificate and it says Highgate on it. That's why I thought I was born in Highgate. I wasn't. I was born in Richmond. And because my father had moved to Highgate and his kids were born there, including me. And so he said, hold on, let me call my mother." And he called his mother. And he's going, "Mom, there's a guy in here that looked like Uncle Oswald." And she told him to pass the phone over. And I passed the phone, and she said to me, "We've been searching for you for 53 years. And I'm like, "What?" And she said, "Yeah, your father came to Jamaica in 1980, something, whatever. And he and I went looking for you, and we couldn't find you, and we figured out whoever had you change your name, but we found your sister." And so I'm saying, "Oh, sister, I never heard of a sister before." I'm thinking it's the wrong person they have, you know.
Right.
Anyway, huh? I thought it was the wrong person.
Listen, Bulby, you must feel how my heart is beating hard.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
What? That's good. This is good stuff.
Yeah. So she said, we found your sister and we thought whoever had you change your name. So we stopped looking and he took my sister to England. And then she gave me her information and we had a Christmas Eve party to go to, get dinner with some friends. So we went to that dinner and Marsha, my wife, said to me, why don't you go in the car and call this lady? And if you have to go visit, go. I'll find a way home. So I did that. I called the lady and we're there talking. And she said, let me ask you something before we go any further. Are you a guy they call Bulby? I said, yeah. I said, why? She said, oh, my boyfriend always telling me about this guy who come to his workplace and talk and give them a lot of jokes and stories and stuff like that. And I said, what? And I said, which guy is that? And she told me, and I said, I've been in their shop all the time because the shop is around the street from me, around the corner from me in Kendall. And I think so, a small world, eh? So I knew her boyfriend and thing, and I knew who he worked for, a friend of mine. So she gave me the address, and when I ended up down at the house, I ended up at the house, and I realized where I met my wife was the other road across from where they live. I lived off the same road, only on opposite sides of the road.
Oh my
But
goodness. This is a
yeah,
move.
but they moved in after I left there, so I wouldn't even know them. But once I got in the house, it's like I walked through a mirror looking at all these people, and I'm like, wow, they all look like me. And I'm like, really? And my father's sister was there. One of his second oldest at the time, but the oldest was 100. She died in her 90s. She wasn't, they're all in there, and I'm like, whoa, you know? And I'm like getting goosebumps. And then we had fun. We had some food and stuff, and they gave me phone numbers to England and things. So long after that, when I got back home, Christmas, I spent the whole day calling England, calling all over the place. And my sister, who I sent you the thing with, you see her hugging me?
Yes.
I called her. Somebody gave me the number. I called her, and I said, "Is this Barbara?" And she go, "Yes. Who is this?" And I said, "I'm your brother." And the phone went silent, and I'm like, wow, because I've heard story about people say, "Oh, I'm your relative," and the people hang up, right? So I've heard that over the years. So I'm thinking that's gonna happen to me now. But she went silent because she was like just in total astonishment that because all my siblings knew about me. They didn't know me, but they heard because my father's side, they told them, my mother's side, and things. So where was I now? Okay, so I forget where I was.
You're talking about going to the place and calling England and here talking to your sister.
Oh yeah, right. So so she finally answered the phone and said, "Oh, Delvon, I heard about you so much and things like that, and oh, it's so good that we found you." And her other sister we had called her, and she came down right the following week. And then followed by my mother's side of the family, my sister and her boyfriend came the next couple of days. So we're all together and things like that. And then eventually they flew me up to England, and they had a family gathering for me and everything like that. The amount of people I related to and found is unbelievable, because I end up doing the DNA test, and then I end up doing 5 more going back 300 years. So I found stuff that a lot of them that I've found are known, don't know half of the other people. So, I just keep it like
All
that.
of this is in your book, Beyond Your Smile?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. That is simply amazing. And was it that sometime recently you had a health scare or something to that effect?
Yes, but before we say that, we go into that. When I found my siblings, it was, as you know, the paper said 24. I've found or about 6 more from a family member in England. It says 31, I think. We have 31 siblings. It was some on my mother's side and some on my father's side. Yeah. But they all knew each other because my mother was a domestic helper. She took care of my father's kids. And then she had me for him. And then she had my sister. So we even though it's two sides, everybody is kind of close. You know what I mean?
You know what? This warms my heart. This brings tears to my eyes because we watch these kinds of stories on TV and in movies all the time. And this pretty much sounds like your life because you've worked with the Marleys. You have worked with many, many people in Hollywood. You have worked on a cruise ship.
I haven't worked with the people in Hollywood. I've been hanging with them and living a good life.
You know, that's close enough. That's close enough. You know, and you see why this excites me so. All of this took place not even in Jamaica. Here you are going about your business, living in the United States, and all of this information now just starts coming to you. And suddenly, here you are thinking that you're alone, you don't know your origins or anything. And just because you insisted that, you know what, tonight we're going shopping and, oh, that store looked Jamaican. Oh, let me go into it. And voila, a whole new world of family open before you. How did that make you feel?
Well, it made me feel fantastic, and now I'm OCD. I'm obsessed with anything I'm doing is all or nothing, and it was good that I found them, and I keep digging. And sometimes I don't even have to dig. You know, people just tell me their last name, and I look at my stuff, and I realize. In fact, I'll give you a story. I went to Georgia, and I took my trumpet with me, and we went to a waterfall, and I was doing photo shoots, and this lady came up and said, "Can you play something for me?" So I played something for her, and it looked like some guy was coming down the hill, and he heard it. When he got to me, he said, "Man, can you play me something, man?" I said, "Yeah, I'll play something." Then I said, "Where you from?" He said, "Jamaica." I said, "Where in Jamaica?" He said, "Clarendon." I'm like, "That's where my family from." I said, "What's your last name?" So he told me, which I wasn't familiar with their names. So I go on my phone and look at my tree and start seeing some names. And he said, "Yeah, that's my uncle and that's my what." The guy lived right down in just below, I think it's West Palm Beach or someplace. He lived, and he's related to the family.
Yes.
Just like that. I found a lot of people like that, just like that.
Yes. And this is some of what we look forward to in your book. Now, a lot of people do their genealogy tree. A lot of people do their searches. A lot of adopted children or children who figure that they were abandoned, they do their search. And we may hear about their stories or we may not hear about their stories. Some people don't even find any history that they can dig up. I've just started to do that DNA ancestry thing. And since I've been watching that show with Professor Gates, I become even more curious about my own history. But what made you take it another step further? And I don't want to lose you off screen, so you need to lean back closer to your filing cabinet. Thank you. What made you decide that, you know what, this needs to be booked? This needs to be in a book. And how did you start that process of putting all of that information together in your book, for your book, and so on? How did that come about?
Well, the book thing came about when people saw the articles that was written about me in Jamaica and in the Caribbean today in Miami, and the one my sister wrote in England, because she was a writer, journalist. And So when that came out, a lot of people who read it that knew me, their mouth was open wide, like, what?
The mouth
Because
open
they did
wide.
all this stuff, all the stuff that they read about. They're like, man, I know him for 30, 40 years. I didn't know that. I never said anything. And it never showed on me that there were anything, that something like that happened, And everybody, and when I told this, when they saw that, they tell me I should get involved with a book and things. I would procrastinate for a little bit. And then I had a few people who started the book. One lady, she had fibromyalgia and she had bad days and good days, and I didn't want to stress her. And my cousin's husband's ex-wife started it, and she had another job. She had to leave. And then I met this lady who's my sister. My sister tutored her in journalism in England. I met her at a get-together in England, and she told me Barbara taught her how to write and stuff like that. So I said, will you do my book? And she said, yeah. So I did all the manuscript and sent it to her that she can put it in the form, So that's how that started.
How long did it take for it to come to this point of birth where you're going to be having your book launch come June? And I'm sure that's going to be an exciting experience.
Yeah, I think she started, I'm not sure. She started, she probably started sometime last year, I think, late last year. Yeah, but this is what she does. So,
I'm loving this.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I tell you, I was so excited to see that book cover and your announcement of the launch coming out. How was I to know that there was because I already knew you. I already knew the dynamic person you were. I already knew that, you traveled through some time, but you are filling in all the blanks that I would never have dreamt unless you,
Don't forget, I served with your brother.
Yes, even
JDF. Yeah.
right there, even that. That. It is in a very, very small world. Yes, my brother was a training officer with the JDF.
Yeah, he was a lieutenant. Yeah.
Yes. I tell you, that is amazing. The history goes way back. And I know you started to look into our last name and see, wow, but I'm also related to some Olivers. And you were also telling me a very interesting story, how people got their names is that, for instance, they would name they would have two last names or put their last names as their middle names and all of that kind of stuff. So sometimes it's a little bit tricky to identify individuals. But I'm glad that you are tracing your history, because as Marcus Garvey says, if we don't know where we're coming from, then we don't know where we're heading. I've paraphrased.
Right.
It's important for us as a people to know who we are. And we can't assume that everybody's history is the same, despite the fact that we may all come from Jamaica, despite the fact that we may even all look similar. Everybody's journey is so unique. And this is what is exciting about a book such as yours being produced.
Yeah. And what's fascinating about the book is about the journey is we all connected all over these islands. I found two cousins in Cuba. I found one in Costa Rica. You name it, unbelievable. Panama, same thing. People travel. So, and I mean, it's not that easy thing to. My cousin in England, Bev, she is a masterpiece when it comes to genealogy and and research and stuff like that. So I think I learned a little bit from her, So it's consumed me. No, yeah. Some people think you're crazy doing all of this stuff, but hey, I don't care. I don't want. If I'm sorry, I don't have any kids, but if people's kids going to get married to their own relatives and don't know, it's good to know, and it's good to know the history. We leave the history and all of these information back with these kids, because at some point they're going to want to find out.
Yes, I think that's very Mm.
I'm not um I'm not regretful about anything. And I'm not mad at anybody. Because how I look at it, I didn't live their lives for what happened to me or whatever. I don't know what they were going through. So I can't point no finger. I just live with it. The lady who took me, she should beat the hell out. I mean, I got one small hit all kind of shit. I mean, I got really, I got beating from I was like 5, 6 up until the day I joined the army. The whip came up because strangers were beating me. At the schools, I got beaten. And at Alpha, I got beaten. And so is everybody else, you know. But I mean, I got a brutal beating at one point till I say, you know, something. I'm going to, one of the other motives I joined into that pushed me to join really quick is that this guy in the print tree in Alpha, that guy beat the hell out of me. And I say, I'm going to join the army. I'm going to come back for this guy. But when the training hit me up in Newcastle, I forget about him. Yeah, forget everything about that. You know, yeah.
Where the basic training lick your Newcastle.
Out of it, big time. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, how would you say that all of that, what they now call abuse, how did that affect you even before you became mature enough to understand? So, you know what? I don't blame nobody. It's life. I made the best use of what I had going on for me. Thank you, Yellow Man, for tell Bulby for stop runway. Thank you. Thank you, Yellow Man. If nobody tell you, Yellow Man, I'm saying it. Thank you, Yellow Man.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the beatings, somebody even mentioned recently, they're like, how can you love somebody who did all of that to you? It was the only way they knew because they grew up like that.
Yes.
And their family relatives probably grew up like that. It comes from a slavery mentality background. You understand what I'm saying? That's how I look at it. I might be wrong, but I look at it that way. And she beat me, and I mean brutal. She opened my skull here. You see the white in the back of my head, and somebody said to me that I posted something saying, I just love grandma. I call her grandma, but she really is the third one who took me. And you know something, every time I think about her, I kind of tear up. You know why? She took care of me, her son, who was a Rhodes Scholar, Calabar and Oberlin High School. And she took care of all of them. And then she took care of their kids on nothing. She was a domestic helper from the day she grabbed me. She was a domestic helper. She never made that much money. And she gave whatever little. And then so I overlooked the punishment. I was more sorry for her than anything else, you know. And it's really sad. I mean, so when I came to the States, eventually I couldn't go back for a while until I'm straightened out. And eventually, we started going down to the North Coast. And I said, man, I gotta go see grandma. And she had moved from Avondale now because the people she worked with died. And the son that lived in New York came and took the house. So she went and stayed with her cousin that I never heard of before, down in Raytown or something. That's not Raytown. It's down like you're going to the airport. What's that road called again?
It does.
Huh?
Harborview.
Yeah, well, it's not. Yeah, it's the road that take you down to go Harborview. It's I forget. Mountain View. Yeah, yeah. She lived at a place around there, and you could tell that place was nice back in the day. It was like no, you don't want to walk too long around there. But anyway, I found her. And before I went down, I went to, I think it was Walmart. Man, I bought everything I could see, and took it down to her. And then that's me and a bunch of people that was there, my wife and a bunch of people in a van. And when we stopped at the gate, a car pulled up, and it was her. She always getting a drive from church. Always somebody drop her. 'Cause she had two bad feet. She couldn't barely walk and thing, and they even straightened out one of them. So she had to get a drive home, and people willing to take her home. And she pulled in, and I looked at her and I froze. And then she got up. She got out of the car and went through the gate, and there's a grill to get in, grill gate. And while she was closing the grill, I walked up and I said, "Grandma," and she like, "Who's that?" I said, "It's Deli." She go, "My Deli?" I said, "Yeah, your Deli." And she said, "What?" And she opened the gate, and I held her, and it was the end there. I just lost it. I lost it so bad that I couldn't even breathe. You know, I mean, it was bad. And I gave her all this stuff because I feel guilty that I couldn't help her because I was not legal here. You know. Luckily, I had friends in the immigration thing that could do stuff. But that time, no, you can't do that. And so, and she finally died after. I mean, a year or so after she died.
I'm so
And I
happy
went,
we got to see her though.
yeah.
I'm so happy
Mama,
that we got to make that trip and that visit and that reconnection. I love your story, Bulby. I'm so happy you wrote it. I'm
thank
so
you.
happy. I cannot wait to read this book. I can't wait for the launch of your book at the end of this month in June. I'm so happy for this conversation. Vivian Pitter, one of my great friends from Michael College, she says, what a story. Some people have the most. She says, I have some too. Marilyn Ballantyne says, a whole new world. I also dropped a copy of the article in the comments of this video, so you can check that out. Yes, Andreen. Andreen Bonner says, that's why we need to write. Andreen, I will never stop saying that Andreen is one of my first interviewed guests, because if Andreen had told me no, probably I'd have given up and not even continued. But Andreen just happily said yes. And we had a wonderful conversation, and she has more books to come back and talk about. Rick Clan McCalla is watching. Great story. Great story. This is a fabulous story. I'm loving this.
And her name is Bonner, last name Bonner.
Yes.
Oh,
Andrew Bonner.
yeah, guess what? In St. Mary, Bernard, a lot of Bonners were there. So that's why when you say Bonner, I'm like, whoa, I wonder if it's, Yep.
Yes. You know what? This is exciting. There's a whole lot more. There's a whole lot more to learn and know and speak with Bulby about. Bulby, who I've known on stage every night. And I know about the 𝑾𝑹𝑰 Bulby, and I remember a few of the other soldiers who were also in the band during those 6 months, because we worked 6 months together, a half a year on that production. And you guys were always on point. You saw all the drama that was happening with us actors on stage, all the dances we had to learn. You all had to be on cue. You were on stage all the time for the 2.5 hours that production run. So to be here in 2023, to be having this conversation with you, I am so happy. I feel blessed to know you. I'm thankful for your story, because you know what? It encourages people. Why you write? I've been talking about why I think you should write, but in wrapping up, why did you do this book?
Well, I would love for other kids that went through what I went through. I'm hoping that it can strengthen them to be strong and find a path for themselves rather than focusing back on what happened, because that can hurt you. Focusing back and keeping what had happened to you 20 years later after, it's not good. It's not good. Just move forward. And I hope I can tell that story to kids, because I give a speech at a school up here and I told them a little about it, and they were like really frozen. And I'm hoping I can I'm not a good speaker anyway, but I'm hoping I can go to schools and or orphanage and speak to kids like this, you know, because it's unhealthy and serve no purpose to be really angry with something that somebody else did. You gotta, if you see the light at the end of the road, that's where you should head to.
Go towards the light.
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough for your time, spending it with us, and giving us a sneak peek of what to expect from your book when it comes out. When it comes out, where will it be available? How can we get our copies? Are there any pre-launch copies to be had? How do we get the good stuff?
Okay, well, that aspect of it is I don't, because it's in the UK. I know she's publishing. I know she's doing. She just put the Amazon thing together. You could say get it on Amazon, and I'm not sure. I'll know in a few because she coming here. She's staying with me, so she coming here. So I guess I'll know more as
you're gonna
the
keep
days.
us. You're gonna
right.
keep. Well, I'm glad I got the early story. I'm glad Why I Write got the early story before everybody else grabs you up. I'm so glad. I want to thank you again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you have watched this interview with me and Delvon Bulby Campbell, it is a story of overcoming the worst. It is a story of finding your history, your roots. Sometimes it happens by happenstance. Certain circumstances all linked together to bring you to a place of centered wholeness. This is what we do. We encourage each other. This is what we do. We tell our stories because nobody else can tell our stories like we can. I want to say congratulations to you once more, Delvon Bulby Campbell, for doing what you do, for surviving every day, for living as you know, best as you can and not looking behind you. Thank you for everything that you've done. And we're looking forward to hearing more from you and learning more about your journey as life unfolds. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
It is my pleasure. If you've watched this chat and you love and enjoy it, share it far and wide, and let's get this book into every hand. My name is Tatlin Oliver. I've been your host for tonight's presentation of Why I Write. Join me next week. I have another very exciting guest. Thank you. What good.
Take care. Love you.